Now the floor is given to Colonel Dmytro Hutsulyak, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesperson. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, information about the situation in the region of Joint Forces operations during the last 24 hours on the 4th of May and as of today, the 5th of May, and also information about important news in the activity of the Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces of Ukraine. During the last 24 hours, the militants of occupation administrations of Russian Federation continued shelling of defense positions of our defenders, servicemen of Joint Forces. During the last 24 hours, 54 precision enemy shellings of our positions were recorded, including 5 with the use of prohibited weapons. In the Lugansk sector, during the 4th of May, 14 precision enemy shellings were recorded. In the majority of instances, firing provocations were carried out by the enemy in the evening and at night. Militants of occupation administrations of Russian Federation used 120 and 82 mm mortars against positions of the servicemen of joint forces in the regions of Maryorsk, Novgorodsk, and Sokilniki. Occupants launched on the whole about 60 mines. Provocative shellings from the IFV's weaponry, grenade launchers of different types, and large caliber machine guns were delivered by the enemy on defenders of Novgorodsk and Troitsk, Toshkivska, Popasna, Sokilniki, Novozvanivka, Katerinovka, and Krymsk. In the Donetsk sector, 40 precision enemy shellings were recorded. Starting from 5:40, during 1 hour, enemy launched more than 20 mines from 82 mm mortars against our defenders of Starognativka. And during the last 24 hours, provocative enemy shellings from grenade launchers of different types, large caliber machine guns and small arms in direction of the units of joint forces lasted continuously. Militants of occupation administrations of Russian Federation repeatedly delivered firing provocations in direction of our defenders of Kamenka, Shirokina, Avdiivka, Starognativka, Taramchuk, Gnutave, Lomakine, Vodyane, Opitne, Lebedinske, Krasnogorivka, Mariinka, Verkhneteretske, Piskitalakivka, Pavlopil, and Pishivik. Starting from morning and during the daytime in the region of Taramchuk and late in the evening near Mariinka, enemy snipers delivered fire. On the whole, during the last 24 hours, Russian occupation forces delivered 54 precision shellings on defense positions, including 5 instances the enemy used prohibited weapons. On the whole, the occupants launched at defense positions of joint forces more than 80 mines from 120 and 82 mm mortars. The servicemen of the joint forces, in order to preserve lives and health of military personnel, about 30 times returned fire using service infantry weapon of the caliber that is allowed by the Minsk agreements. In the result of enemy shellings during the last 24 hours, 1 serviceman was injured, 1 more serviceman of joint forces was wounded. Moreover, in the course of engineering works and the result of explosion of an unknown explosive device, 1 more serviceman was wounded. Now, all our defenders are provided with qualified medical help in military hospitals. The health condition of the 2 servicemen is of mid-severity, 1 more serviceman in satisfactory condition. Moreover, militants of occupation administrations of Russian Federation at about 8 p.m. yesterday made 2 shots from 122 mm artillery on civilian infrastructure of Zaitsevo. According to information provided by the press center of joint forces, 122 mm shells damaged houses of local residents. And in Zaitsevo now, emergency workers and repair brigades are working. Now about the situation at the line of confrontation today on the 5th of May. Starting from midnight, 5 precision shellings of positions of joint forces by Russian occupation forces were recorded. Enemy used tank and mortars. 120 mm mortars were used against defenders of Novotoshkivka, Avdiivka, Tanenka. On the whole, the enemy launched more than 30 mines. Defenders of Novognativka recorded 9 enemy shots from tank on our positions. Provocative shellings with the use of large caliber machine guns and small arms were recorded in the regions of Novotroitsk and Shirokina. According to information provided by the Joint Center Forces, today on the 5th of May, about 9 and 10 Russian terror forces delivered 2 shellings on checkpoint Gnutovo, that is in Mariupol sector. It was previously identified that the militants of occupation forces delivered shelling with use of anti-tank guided missiles, and there were many civilians at checkpoint, and they were evacuated to a shelter. In the result of shelling, 2 cars were damaged, no casualties among citizens. The work of the checkpoint was suspended, and in order to ensure security of the citizens and to identify the circumstances of this incident, red threat level was introduced temporarily. According to the main intelligence department of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, from the start of operation of Joint Forces, Russian Occupation Command significantly intensified reconnaissance activity in order to identify changes in operative situation. Russian occupation forces increased the intensity of the use of air drones in Severodonetsk, Slavyansk, and Avdiivka sector, including an operative and tactical rear of our defense. At the same time, Russian occupation forces more actively use subversive and reconnaissance groups to create passages in the explosive obstacles and to provide exits for such subversive groups. The enemy increases the firing impact on frontline positions of the Ukrainian units. And according to Joint Forces Press Center, active defense brought losses to the militants. Russian occupation forces during the last 24 hours lost 3 people killed and 3 wounded. Now about other important news. According to information provided by Public Relations Department of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Balaklia, measures are implemented to liquidate emergency in the territory of 66th Arsenal. And as of morning 5th of May, there is no smoke above the territory of the storage facilities. Servicemen of armed forces and emergency service specialists who participate in liquidation of the consequences of fire continue their work. There are 3 firefighting tanks, 2 obstacle clearing vehicles, and 6 fire engines of state emergency service. And 2 Mi-8 helicopters conduct air reconnaissance flights. And 20 drops of water were made by an Tu-32P airplane and Mi-8 helicopter. No threat to civilians, and storage facility is safe. And in Zhytomyr, they started the new training for operative reserve of the first line of one of the units of detached air mobile brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. About 400 servicemen were brought from all regions of Ukraine, as it was stated by Air Assault Forces Commander Lieutenant General Mikhail Zabrodsky. During this month, reservists will improve their practical skills in all fields of combat training, will act in regular units, detachments, and crews. In the result of the training, reservists of assault and forces will participate in battalion and tactical training with live fire and airdrop. Thank you.